Hey everyone, this is Pallavi, and today I'm going to show the 29th game of the book Chess: The Art of Logical Thinking by Neil MacDonald. This game was played between Tal and Van der Wiel in Moscow in 1983. The opening played was English opening. This game highlights the importance of creativity, initiative, flexibility, and accurate calculation in chess strategy and tactics. So without further ado, let's begin. White started with c4, stops black from playing d5, making way for queen. It also avoids blocking the white's c pawn behind the knight on c3 when the knight develops on c3. Black developed knight f6 towards the center and controlling e4 square, supporting the d5 square. Knight c3. White 2 develops the knight towards the center. Black played e6. A strong move that both opens up black's bishop's diagonal and challenges the control over the d5 square. Knight f3. Another knight develops towards the center. b6. Black chooses to develop the queen's bishop to control the e4 square indirectly instead of directly contesting it with d5 or bishop to b4. e4. The most aggressive response to black's idea, although the black bishop may target the pawn, placing it on the fourth rank creates more space for white's pieces behind it. Bishop b7. Black often struggles with this bishop in queenside openings, so it's a relief for black to develop it to a secure square where it's safe from attacks and still influences the center. Bishop d3. A clever concept made famous by Ukrainian grandmaster Oleg Romanishin, although it seems strange to block the d2 pawn. It protects the e4 pawn and the c4 pawn as well. If d3 is played, the king's bishop has limited scope. Thus, white places the bishop on d3 to defend e4 and later plans to retreat it to c2 to clear the path for d4. However, Tal will add this his unique touch. Instead of retreating the bishop to c2, he advances it to e4. Now black played c5, a very logical response with moves like c4, e4. White has created a gap on d4 that cannot be defended by a pawn, but placing a bishop on d3 obstructs d4 advance, which would fill the gap. Van der Wiel aims to seize the control of adjustments to regain dominance over it. So black played c5. Now white played kingside castle for king's safety. Now black played knight c6. The knight strengthens black's control over the d4 square, with white avoiding d4, d2 to d4. A secondary weakness on e5 is emerging. If not addressed, black will proceed with bishop e7, kingside castle, then a6, then queen to c7, and then knight to g4, turning the two squares into a vulnerable dark square complex in the center. Now white played e5, an interesting move by Tal. Tal disrupts black's plans, even if it means he'll have to sacrifice a pawn to maintain his initiative. Now black played knight g4. Now the e5 pawn is attacked twice and can only be defended by pieces, not pawns. Now white played bishop e4. White aims to launch a direct attack and must pave the way for his d pawn to advance, allowing freedom for his queenside pieces. This move is superior to the routine rook e1 often played, where players later realize the rook would have been better on f1 to support a pawn advance down the f file. So white played bishop e4, black played queen c8, supporting the bishop on b7, because if black had taken the pawn on e5, with knight g takes e5, then knight takes e5, knight takes e5, and then bishop takes b7, and white wins a piece. So black played queen c8 and supports the b7 bishop. d3. As usual in his career, Tal sacrifices a pawn to inject dynamism into the position. Knight g takes e5. Black boldly accepts the pawn offer, as Steinitz once said, when he took an e-pawn, a center pawn is worth a little trouble. White captured, knight takes e5. This exchange facilitates the coming attack down the f-file. Knight takes e5. Black recaptures, opening the path for the bishop for an exchange as well. Generally, in all-out attack, reducing material benefits the defender. Now white played f4. The main point of white's sacrifice is that he can gain time to use the f-pawn as a battering ram by attacking the black knight. Now black played knight c6. A sensible retreat, as after knight to g6, white could have harassed the knight again with f5. Now white played f5. The attack intensifies. Strategically, black struggles to decide where to place the king. The black pawn in the center, the pawn center, is strong but unlikely to offer long-term safety. Castling kingside would invite a ready-made attack for white, and queenside castling seems safer with ample pawn cover, but it's challenging to arrange due to moves like queen c7 followed by knight g5, which poses significant difficulties. Now black played g6. A clever defensive idea. After bishop e7 instead of g6, then queen g4, white's attack would continue without interruption. So black challenges the f5 pawn. His idea is firstly that after f takes g6, then h takes g6, the f file is open, which was of course inevitable in any case, but he has the defensive move rook h7 available to fortify the f7 square. Secondly, f takes e6. F takes e6, then d takes e6 allows the queen access the d7 square, facilitating queenside castling. Thirdly, f6 blocks the f file. Fourthly, g4, then g takes f5, g takes f5, rook g8 check grants black counterplay against the white king. However, there is a fifth option, one that Tal won't overlook. Bishop g5. White develops his final minor piece in a spectacular manner. The bishop seizes control of the dark squares around the black king, but has Tal overlooked the light squares? Black played g takes f5. Black takes out the only pawn causing trouble. If white wants to win, they might have to give up a piece since there are no pawns left to sacrifice. This gives the defender a chance, but big sacrifices are risky. White played bishop takes f5. Another good move. Still, this sacrifice follows white's plan logically. Retreating now isn't an option because after bishop f3, white would be 2 pawns down and in a lost position. So white captured, bishop takes f5, and black played bishop e7. If instead e takes f5, after e takes f5, the black king's pawn cover is shattered. It's trapped with no escape route, blocked by the white bishop on g5 and its own bishop on f8. Black can only try to shield the king with minor pieces if checked down the e file. It's not an ideal coordination of pieces. Meanwhile, white can concentrate all his efforts along the two open files with queen e2 check, then knight e7. If bishop e7, then knight d5, winning for white. So queen e2 check, knight e7, then rook ae1. Queen d8, supporting e7, then rook takes f5. Idea, rook fe5. And the knight drops. Or queen h5, checkmate threat on f7. Then if black plays rook g6, white can bring in the rook g8, then white can bring in the knight to b5, and all white pieces are attacking. But according to the engine, the best move for black is to play rook g8 instead of queen to d8. Rook g8 attacking the bishop on g5. If now bishop takes e7, then rook takes g2 with a check. Queen takes g2 because the bishop was supporting the rook, king could not capture it. Then bishop takes g2, bishop h4 check, discovered check, bishop e4, knight takes e4, f takes e4, rook takes e4 check, bishop e7, rook takes e7 check, king d8, rook f takes f7, king c7 with slight advantage for white. So after bishop takes f5, now black played bishop e7. Now white played queen h5, and now the queen comes into action, supporting g5 and putting pressure on f7. Black played bishop takes g5. Disaster looms after e takes e5. Then rook a e1, aiming for nd5. White would effectively have a material edge of 2 rooks for a bishop, with active rooks compared to black's inactive ones. The move bishop g5, bishop takes g5, deflects the white queen from the attack on f7, but the queen secures key dark squares. Additionally, the d6 square opens up for the white knight to potentially deliver a significant check with knight b5 or knight e4. After bishop takes g5, white played queen takes g5. White's queen now dominates a cluster of dark squares, and around the king, f6, g7, h6, these squares. Now black played knight e7. If instead of knight e7, black plays e takes f5, then rook fe1 check, king f8, queen h6 check, king g8, knight d5, and checkmate is unstoppable. Now queen d8, then rook e8 check, queen takes rook on e8, knight f6, checkmate. So black played knight e7. Now white played bishop e4. After being offered for capture 3 times on f5, for the bishop finally retreats. Now white can apply pressure with his rooks along the f file. Bishop takes e4. Black attempts to improve his position by exchanging pieces, typically a sound strategy. However, the newly placed piece on e4 proves even more dangerous than the white bishop. Knight takes e4 with the threat of knight d6 check and fork. Queen c6 defends the fork. Rook takes f7, a good move, another brilliant sacrifice. And now the threat is queen takes e7, checkmate. No way black should allow the rook to stay in the 7th rank. So black played king takes f7 and then queen f6, check. Now black played king g8. If instead queen e8, then queen takes h8, check, wins. So king g8. Now white played queen takes e7, threatening knight f6, checkmate. Now black played rook f8 and now white played rook f1. Now white brings up the final reserves into the attack. Black now resigned after rook f1, because if black plays rook f1, then king f1 followed by knight f6, checkmate, and black cannot save this. So that was the game, Tal versus van der Wiel. So let's look at some key principles and lessons learned from the game. Number 1, dynamic piece development placement. Tal demonstrates the importance of placing pieces dynamically, even if it involves unconventional moves or temporary pawn sacrifices to create attacking opportunities. Number 2, exploiting weaknesses. Both players exploit weaknesses in their opponent's position, such as targeting pawn weaknesses or controlling key squares. Number 3, initiative. Maintaining the initiative is crucial. Tal consistently seeks to keep the pressure on black, forcing them to react defensively and limiting their counterplay. Number 4, flexibility. Tal shows flexibility in his plans, adapting to changing circumstances and finding creative solutions to emerging problems. Number 5, coordination. Coordination between pieces is essential for launching successful attacks or defending effectively. Tal's pieces work harmoniously together to create threats, while Wiel struggles to coordinate his pieces effectively. Number 6 is evaluation of material. Sacrificing material for initiative and attacking chances is a recurring theme in Tal's play. He evaluates positions based on dynamic factors rather than just material considerations. Number 7 is calculation and visualization. Tal's ability to calculate accurately and visualize potential tactical sequences is evident throughout the game, allowing him to navigate complex positions effectively. And number 8 is patience and timing. Tal demonstrates patience in building up his attack and choosing the right moment to strike rather than rushing into premature actions. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something from this game as well. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel to show some support. Thank you. See you in the next video. Bye bye.